Our next session for the day is all about bringing three brilliant minds together. First off, we have Kumar Rao, a systems thinker who can turn complex problems into actual, simple, usable user experiences. And next up, we have Swetha KS, a code whisperer who can turn your legacy content, your scattered information, your tangled workflows into intuitive guides. And to top it all, we have Yvette. A huge round of applause for Yvette. She'll be joining us on WebEx, who is going to make all of this understandable and accessible to humans. So a huge round of applause for this Power Pack combo, everyone.
On. Yeah, it's on. I can't see it. I can't see it. I can't see it on the screen.
You want to see her on the screen?
I want to see it on the screen.
Give us 1 minute as we figure the layout. Awesome. This is Yvette, everyone. Hi, Yvette.
Hi.
So,
Wait, Swetha.
good morning,
Swetha.
everyone.
Swetha,
Yvette,
wait.
1 second. Yvette, I
This is
just want
really exciting.
to go on. You sound so excited.
Okay,
Go on.
I'm really excited about this. Look what I have here. Check this out. It's a clip art, and it moves if I move it.
Yvette, you're so sweet. But it still smells like hot ink and disappointment.
Whatever.
I'm so sorry.
Retro was in, and Doc said fax machines are still the communication method of the future.
Well, Doc also said we needed 1.21 gigawatts to power up our slide projector to go into the future. And speaking of the future, Yvette, you're speaking about all 1985 stuff. Why are you joining us from the future?
Because I bought plutonium on eBay, and it's only powering the DeLorean up to enough for a WebEx connection. Wow, look
Fuel
at
is
the
expensive.
quite an audience there.
Oh, yes. I was going to welcome them. So perfect timing, you guys. We are glad to have you here. And we are here to take your documentation back to the future.
So I'm Yvette, and that's Swetha. Consider us your time traveling guides as we take you through this agenda to where we are, where we want to be, and how we're going to get there. So, what is the problem? Well, we spend so much time fixing yesterday's docs, written after exclamation, patching the same content. We are stuck in this reactive documentation loop. So let's do a quick time travel exercise. Imagine it's Monday morning. The year is 1985. Well, scratch that. It could be today. A user is trying to install something. They get an error. They check the docs, but the steps don't work. Later, after trying to figure it out on their own, the customer is so frustrated and opens a support case. An engineer addresses it, but their fix has an extra config step that needs to be documented. So a doc bug is raised. Maybe within the next week or so, then the writer updates the doc. Unfortunately, by now, 47 other customers have already hit the same issue. The technology changed, the decade changed, but the experience not so much. Reactive documentation causes customers frustration, low confidence in our documentation, and our products. Support team is dealing with numerous calls and repetitive cases. Our credibility erodes. It's kind of like what Doc told us while we were drinking milkshakes the other day. You can't keep chasing the past if you want to fix the future.
I agree. So now let's reimagine the same loop and look a little bit into the future. So it's Monday morning and you wake up, you power on your laptop, and trust me, I get this. All you want to do is just close the laptop and go back to sleep. But instead, you're sitting there, you decide to plow through your day, sipping on your first cup of coffee. And that's when AI is quietly working in the background. And it has detected that there were 15 support cases related to high availability timeouts. And what is interesting is that it also flags that extended timeout parameters for high availability are not documented anywhere. And then the magic happens, where it automatically creates a draft for you. By Monday evening, you get an email with the draft generated there. And now all you have to do is review the draft, edit or polish it as required, run it by your SMEs, and approve it. So what earlier took a couple of weeks for the doc to go live, now the doc goes live in a couple of days. So maybe 3 weeks to 3 days or even lesser. This is proactive documentation, where we anticipate issues, where AI is helping you do that, and you fix it, and the doc just goes up even before there's a doc bug or a support case raised. So,
Ta-da!
how do we actually...
Flux Capacitor Framework. In Doc DeLorean, the Flux Capacitor...
In Doc's DeLorean, it was a flux capacitor that made time travel possible. In our case, this is what is going to power our proactive documentation, or the vision that we have. So let's break this down. We have flux and the capacitor. So when I say flux, I mean inputs. Where is it getting these inputs from? So the first source is telemetry. Telemetry includes all the touch points where the customers or users are interacting with our docs. It could be the product AI assistant logs. It could be logs from, how they get to our documentation, like, that tracks their journey. How do they come to our documentation, and where do they go to from here? Then it could also include some customer surveys through some channels, feedback, all of that. All that comes under telemetry. Next source is community. And this is extremely useful because you don't have to now rely on a CX or a support engineer to get actual real field feedback into customer pain points. So here we are scraping all social media sites where Cisco products are talked about. This could be Reddit, LinkedIn, or any such forums where our Cisco products are discussed.
Another data source is from support signals. They are like customer support cases, like all the analysis that we do from there. It gives us a pattern, consolidating common errors customers are running into. And finally, search, which is part of telemetry. We can recognize the failed searches from where users dropped off in their search. Failed searches can reveal missing content or reveal new workflows that should be documented. All these feed into the Flux. Okay, so now we come to the brains of the operation, the capacitor. It categorizes problems. It groups issues by product and feature and synthesizes the data into documentation insights. By connecting problems to specific missing or incorrect content, it can pinpoint documentation gaps. Let's say it finds 50 or so Reddit conversations about installation features. The capacitor deduces from all the information it gathered that it would be resolved if we added more prerequisite information.
So, documentation gaps. How does the system actually flag a documentation gap? It doesn't mean that every insight that it picks up should necessarily translate into a doc gap. So the system bases this on 3 vectors, which is the product behavior. This actually gives us insight into what the product does, the product reality. We need this because we do not want the docs to be updated based on purely user assumption. I mean, yes, the users would like the doc to say something different, but we cannot write that. I mean, the product behaves like that on that day. There's nothing we can do about it. So this is usually verified by technical data, any logs, white papers, WebEx recordings. Then the next one is customer behavior. This gives us insight into how customers are actually trying to use the product, the mental model, or the pain point. And this is revealed by all that we discussed in the Flux, the searches, tickets, and community feedback. And finally, it looks at the existing content. It looks at the content for that particular product, for that particular feature area, and scrapes whether content is missing, is it inaccurate, is it hard to find. So it analyzes the entire document for both accuracy and visibility. Not only does our system do this, it also assigns a priority. So each doc gap is assigned a priority, like, for example, the first one is critical. Critical is usually for wrong documentation because we cannot have wrong documentation sitting out there. So this is always flagged as critical. The second one is needs an update. This means the content is there, it's just not that clear, or customers are not able to find the information clearly, and that needs to change. And finally, we have doc opportunity. This presents new opportunities for documentation. It could be new troubleshooting guides, solution guides, or any architectural deep dives, depending on emerging customer trends.
So together with all this data and analysis, AI is generating updates based on past feedback before release by continuously monitoring data at a cadence that we pick, quarterly, bi-weekly, whatever we want, right, Swetha?
Exactly, Yvette. So this is the intelligence layer. And it's only with this that we truly move from reacting to predicting. So as we continued our favorite hobby, which was sit with Dr. Brown and slurp our milkshakes, we asked him for help. We asked him, how do we actually conceptualize this? I mean, it's a great idea, but we did, want to actually see this in action. So he helped us by giving us a multi-agent framework. Not yet another script or automation, but multiple agents.
Oh, yes. Multiple agents. 4 main ones to be exact. Although their fashion sense is still stuck in the 80s, they work faster than light and never ask for time off. So let's meet our first agent. Agent Scout, also known as the scraper. He gathers the data. He's constantly scanning forums like Slack channels, Reddit, our own support case systems, and product search logs. Whatever we define as a source, nothing escapes the scraper. He consolidates this information, including source, what the issue is, and so on, to pass off to the next agent.
So our next agent is the Cirrus. How many of you actually like her? We designed her with great care. You know how she looks. So she is actually the brain among all of these agents. She does most of the heavy lifting. She does all what the capacitor does. So she takes all the information that the Scout gives her, classifies that by product area, feature area, flags documentation gaps, and even assigns priority. Oh, she works a lot. And she does all this, and she passes this information to the next agent. The next agent is our agent author. So our agent author, this guy is the writer's assistant. He does most of the grunt work for us. He looks at the data that Agent Cirrus has given him, looks at the documentation gap, checks the existing documentation yet again to be sure, and finally drafts an update to address the issue. And he takes this information and then passes this on to the next agent. We have Agent Beacon.
Oh, yes, it's Beacon with her rocker style hair and loving her boombox. She makes sure we humans know about it. The updates are delivered to you directly in your inbox. No more manual monitoring of dashboards. The email is sent to the writer, and the writer decides to accept it or not. So think of these agents as colleagues who never sleep, never take time off, and always remember where they put their notes. Basically, these guys are everything we're not on Monday mornings.
So again, as we were talking to Dr. Brown, we asked him this question again. So we said these 4 agents, power our flux capacitor. But how do we actually know that the flux capacitor truly powers the DeLorean for time travel?
Well,
And
by stopping the conversation and
folks,
actually seeing how the engine runs. So get ready, folks. Strap your seat belts because we are going on the fast lane, and we will see how we achieve all of this. You've seen the data flow. You've seen our agents in action. And this is an outcome as a result of all our agents creating this DeLorean dashboard. What you get to see are issues for products and their offerings, each categorized by an urgency, along with the perfect area that requires documentation. Now let's take the case where there was an issue related to licensing. We've seen it was marked as critical, and the system sent out a specific email to the writer. Now the writer gets to see all of this. This is formed by product insights, consumer or user behavior, and the exact content that needs to be updated. Well, it doesn't just stop there. The writer is in complete control of this. The writer gets to accept or reject, just like how Jason mentioned, the judgment is with us. We take complete control of it, and when we give the valid reason, the system learns from this so that it's ready for the next time it sees a similar pattern or a use case. Today, what we have is not just a static dashboard, but we see a live one which constantly updates itself. And how does all of this happen? Well, we need to see our agents in action. What we have is a framework which has agents that work in real time to make all of this happen. This is a live run of the DeLorean dashboard converted to the workflow. What you can see is we have a swarm of agents, around 7 agents, a main agent controlling all of this, along with the key 4 agents that they described, and co-agents also working with them. So we have Scout, who's looking out and collecting all of this information, scraping through all that, and handing that off to our next agent, which is Cirrus. Cirrus does a deep dive, tries to understand the extent of the data, understands the patterns and insights, and also looks into the Cisco AI MCP, which uses the MCP to access the goldmine of technical information that we have. It also cross-validates against the existing databases and generates documentation related insights. This is passed on to the next agent that you saw, which is our writer. The writer drafts this content beautifully, again, cross-validating that by using the MCP to go into the Docs AI Hub, check all the existing content, identify if there's any existing gaps, and also see what are the doc opportunities like we've mentioned before, and then passes that information to Beacon. Beacon, on the other hand, collects all of this information, identifies who are the owners of this, and distributes those emails to them. Finally, all of this is consolidated together by Dr. Brown, who creates this very intuitive dashboard, which, again, like Jason mentioned, that is just not a static one. It keeps updating itself. It's a dynamic one that constantly evolves and updates itself. And what you see is an outcome of that. The issues are updated in this. The status for the emails are also updated. You always get a living documentation dashboard. At any point in time, when we have new issues that crop up, new priorities that come up, you can see all of them reflect on this dashboard. One more thing I'd like to say is that the systems remain the same. We have the same set of documents. We have the same set of teams, but it's just that the loop gets smarter. And that's the future we are building toward.
Okay, wait a minute. A quick reality check. With all this AI flying around, are we saying the system is just writing docs by itself now?
No, not at all. I think AI is just doing the heavy lifting. It's just assisting us. We are still in control. Definitely. Don't you guys think? Yeah.
Exactly. Think of it this way. The AI builds the DeLorean, but humans are the ones driving it. And honestly, I really don't want a robot making content decisions without adult supervision. Do you?
I agree. So if you notice in our framework, humans are involved in every step. So humans validate accuracy, humans validate the priority, and humans approve whether a doc should even go, the doc update should go live or not. So this is just AI getting us to the right starting point faster. It's not AI taking away our jobs.
And this is really important because documentation isn't just data, right? It's intent, it's clarity, it's knowing what not to say that still needs human context.
I agree. So AI is able to help us time travel, but we humans are required there to make sure that we don't mess up the timeline and end up somewhere in the past or maybe too distant future. Yeah. So can you imagine the impact of such a framework? So for customers, their issues or their pain points are solved before they even have to call support. Like it's almost like that little lady you saw for a minute there, wondering how did they hear me? So that's how it feels. And documentation, it anticipates user needs. Their voice actually shapes content. And for support teams, it's a reduction in repeat cases. Like Yvette was talking about 47 people running into the same issue by the time we resolve one bug. So before we even do that, probably most of them don't run into the issue at all.
And, for writers, no more spending hours collecting feedback from like 15 different sources. The system brings it to you pre-analyzed with a draft already written. We can devote more time to collaborating. We can focus on strategy, not firefighting. So now, instead of us chasing time, we made time chase us. So in the 80s, we imagined flying cars and hoverboards.
Today, we are imagining living documentation, content that evolves, is intelligent, and is always ahead of the curve.
The old way, we documented what broke.
The new way, we document it before it even breaks.
So this content is alive, learning, adapting, anticipating. So let's not just document what happened.
Let's document what's about to happen.
Because the future of documentation begins at
88 miles per hour.
Woo!
Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Swetha, Kumar, and Yvette. We will now open to, y'all have
Need a
something
minute.
else?
One
Yeah,
minute.
we want to make a marketing call for a booth.
Yeah.
So most of you guys saw the demo, this awesome demo that Kumar did. It was a recorded demo because we know how demos actually run on D-days. So that's why please do visit our booth and you can also
You can
interact
get
with
to
him.
see a live run of the demos and how our agents perform their action.
And Dr. Emmett Brown will be able
Thank
to
you.
clarify
Thank
your
you.
queries.
Yes.
Okay, we can take some questions. Are there any questions on WebEx? Okay. Any questions in the room? Yes.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
There's one question.
Hi, I'm Supriya. So the question I have is, when you have agents like that, right, almost 7, it could be a very,
You need to
yeah,
come a
sure,
little forward.
thank you. So it could be a very cost-heavy framework, right? So what is the impact like for this, especially when the teams are newly starting and stuff, right? And when you have to implement a framework like that, you also need to somewhere give an explanation, sort of like, because there could be some sort of cost involved. So how have you measured the impact of this framework so far? Is it worth all the cost that is involved behind the scenes?
Actually, we started this out as a concept, and based on scale, when you're talking about scale, I know we have to take in all these considerations, but we want to take it at a progressive level because everything is evolving with AI.
Yeah.
You see new departments or units trying to bring in their inputs and angle to it. You could get inputs from the design team or the CX team. Those are going to form inputs for our agents also. Okay. So if you see that in totality, we have to take it at a progressive stage. Today, we are trying to contain it by using a RAG, which works locally in your system so that you don't have it very intensive in making all the calls. But as we progress, that's something we need to evaluate and take it in a staggered approach. And like you said, we have to weigh the pros and cons of using a system versus not using a system. Is there a way we can use that system offline, or is there a better way to manipulate and get that data and use it and optimize for that? That's an excellent question. Thank you.
I was imagining that your costs came down.
Yes, in the long.
If you compare it with person hours that you save resolving those issues, it's a huge cost collapse. The other cost that you don't measure in dollars is customer confidence in your product, right? So that goes up. So those are benefits you can use to sell the idea. I have a couple of questions. I'm, as some of you know, I'm Makar and Pandit, and I have a question. Yeah. So I have two small questions. One is you talked about, multiple queries on the same issue. At which stage does that get collated and summarized as one query to address? That is one.
Okay.
I'll ask both my questions. You can address them together. The other one is that a lot of support calls, or maybe some support calls, translate into bugs that need to be fixed or feature enhancements. Does that happen in the system, or where does that happen?
You can probably take
Yes,
that.
I'll answer your second question first.
Okay.
So yes, a lot of support queries we do have. So if you noticed in our slide, support cases was one of our data inputs as well. So depending on the cadence we set, suppose we set a quarterly cadence, maybe it's too late. Suppose we set a weekly cadence, probably we would be able to tap into those insights and act on it immediately.
Yeah, no, so I was looking at feature enhancements, because let's say you have a problem that is frequent, right? And it also has a lot of people who are facing that problem. There's an opportunity there to change product behavior as a feature enhancement. So does that get tracked, and does it get sent back to the development team
as long as it gets captured as in a form of a feedback that is incorporated and taken. But our use cases, like even before it becomes an SR, how do we tackle it? Like, early feedback from customers, as long as it gets captured and from some of a system that we can take forward, our agents can analyze that and, work on that and enhance that. And to answer the first question, in the workflow, if you saw, we had the entry of CDEx. CDEx is the brain behind it. She's the one who actually starts looking into all of these issues and mapping them and grouping them according to the similarity in issues. So you could say, if you put it on a scale, maybe at around the 10 or 20% stage of the workflow, she picks on and starts identifying the issues and grouping them logically.
So issue get summarized?
Yes, the issues get summarized too, based on the feedback received. It categorizes them, groups them, and then tags it based, just like how you get Jira tickets, you get an identity for it. And the remediation that is offered is a consolidated one that addresses all of them with the similar issue. Thank you.
All right. We will take one question from our online folks.
I have a couple of questions. So the first one is, how often the Scout agent scraps the content from different sources? And did you measure the traction, like how often it does, and whether it's a schedule basis or you prompt the agent to fetch the information? So that's first question. Second question is, did you measure the accuracy of the recommendations?
Yes. To answer your first question, could you just repeat? I just lost that question.
Cadence.
How often?
How often? Okay. That's again fixed by us. It depends on how you want it to happen. If you want it to happen over 24/7, you can set that, and your agent will work while you're sleeping to fetch that data. If you want it on a weekly, monthly, anything's possible. The permutation combinations are limitless. Just like how Jason was using it when he went shopping, you could probably even do that when you're shopping and get all the insights available. And
so how did you measure the traction? Like how well it had fetched.
Okay, we reached out to the experts, the author experts in a particular product and checked with them, and they found that the content was relevant and very, very factual in terms of how it can be accommodated as enhancement to a product or so. So one thing is it cross-validates against existing content that we have today in the Cisco Docs AI. So that gives a good, genuine source of truth to validate against. Then it identifies if there are gaps that need to be fixed, and then it offers a recommendation. So it was very easy for the writer to say, okay, fine, this is relevant.
Okay.
But this
So
is
it
at a
also
conceptual level.
It also distinguishes the product level recommendation and also the doc level recommendation.
Doc level, yes.
Okay.
So it gives an opportunity for also considering non-doc related opportunities. This could maybe translate to a feature creation by product or engineering. So it has that kind of a capability.
Thank you.
All right. I know the folks on WebEx have been having a lot of questions. So can we take one question from our online folks?
This question is from Jayashri. I think this is something related to what has been asked just now. So how does Scout decide something is a documentation problem or a product bug? And a related question is, can it measure documentation ROI?
Okay. Yeah. The way we've architectured our agents, we've built in the rules and the guidelines for it to understand whether it actually is a documentation related issue or not. And second, the activities it validates against the existing source documents that we have, the existing source of truths rather, to come up with this. So it all depends upon how you architecture your agents to make all of this possible. We've heard Jason also talk about that, right? So if your architecture is robust, you can put pretty much any rule and it will comply by that. And the second part, could you just repeat, please? The ROI, today, again, like you said, the time writers spend on it. Earlier, it would take 3 weeks to fix a bug. And today, you could do it in 3 days. Although it is at a conceptual level, we have to take it and test it with real users to see how the change happens. Because once the system is alive and kicking, then we can see real ROI from that or real values that come in to say, okay, this is working.
And there is also the abstract ROI, like he mentioned, losing trust. We do not want that. So this actually makes sure that we don't lose credibility in documentation.
I have one question. So mine is almost similar to Edwin's or Nandini's question. So is it like when you say customers raise feedback, are you expecting that they like mostly customer feedbacks will be problems related to the product or the feature? So how does this identify that this is related to documentation, or are customers expected to tell what problem they're expecting from the documentation or what changes they're wanting to see in the document, or what changes do they need to see?
If that's again, it depends on the quality of the feedback. If your feedback is very generic, AI is just a system. It's just going to understand and hallucinate and give. But when you have real clarity saying, okay, I'm finding difficulty with this piece of content. I don't see licensing available in this RAVPN. That is clearly a documentation issue. So we've built some level of intelligence into the agent to analyze and pick what is doc and non-doc related. And when you can demarcate between both of them, the issue, which is a non-doc opportunity, would go to engineering. And there would be a human validation and say, no, this is probably something we need to elaborate in the content. It would come back as a flow. But today we are using that level of intelligence to say, okay, fine, make this distinction and provide the doc related issues and non-doc related issues.
No, but to also answer your question, you said, how does it classify that as a documentation issue? Does it pick on some keywords like docs and all that? It doesn't. It scrapes everything. It scrapes all product related feedback. So the third vector it looks at is existing documentation. So it looks at the pain point. It makes sure our docs have covered it. If not, yes, we can also route it to engineering team saying, there's a lot of feedback here and maybe we should do something to address it.
So I don't know if it's designed like that, but one way for it to figure out is this. You flag a problem and it look for content in your documentation that mentions this problem. If it's not mentioned there, then there's a gap in the documentation. Yes. It's as simple as that. Yeah. if there is a mention of that problem in the documentation, it'll look at whether it is addressing your question. And if it isn't, then there's a gap there, right? Because you also see that it's going to write the first draft. So it has to look at your content to write the first draft. If stuff is missing there, then it's a documentation problem. So it's built into the system.
Thank you so much.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay, we have time for one last question. Are there any other questions in the room? Any more questions? Okay, thank you so much, Yvette, Swetha, Kumar. A fantastic demo as always. Yes, Yvette, thank you so much for staying up with us. I'm not sure what time it is there.
Yeah, I wish I could have gone. Been there.
All right, from what I've known, when Swetha comes into any kind of session, she always has a very creative idea. I don't know whose idea it is, but I know that when Swetha is here, I think even on the AI day, they had like some skit or something going on. So huge round of applause for your creative minds as well.
Thank you so much.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, how many of you are excited about the giveaways? Okay, Rashmi and Manju. All right. Let me refine my question. How many of you are excited about AirPods? Wonderful, guys. I have taken note of everybody who did not raise your hands. So if there is a giveaway, and if you end up getting AirPods, just remember that I am somebody who's extremely excited about AirPods, and I will not think twice before I come to you and take AirPods from you. So my question again, are you excited about AirPods or not? Okay, a very non-excited tech crowd.